When you had a 3,000 person email list, you sold a $2,000 sponsorship deal. And I was like, what?
In a 2-week span, we got 30,000 people to sign up for our email list. And we were just like, oh, is that good? Awesome. Like we were just so ignorant. We had no idea, right? Of the 30,000 people that we sent that to, only 1,000 opted back in. And that was like a dagger to the heart. Everything was, it was like, okay. You probably didn't know sound effects were coming, did you?
I did.
Maybe you did know. Maybe you did know.
I was ready.
I just fundamentally don't look at this stuff transactionally. He basically said, okay, Justin, now is the time. You have planted 1 million great seeds with people over the last, 4 years. Now is the time. Over the last several months, I've also had a significant churn issue. I'm basically filling the bucket, but I have a big hole in the bottom of the bucket. The visual that I like to give is like a lot of people think that negotiating with a brand or interacting with a brand, it's like you're on opposite sides of a table and it's contentious. Imagine you scoot your little swivel office chair around the side of the table. You're both sitting on the same side and you're looking at a whiteboard together.
You just made so many introverts cringe right now. All right, I am excited. Today we have Justin Moore. Justin is a sponsorship coach for creators. He's been working with brands and has been a creator himself since 2009. His wife April had a YouTube channel and Justin was behind the scenes helping her with her brand deals. He then launched an agency helping brands find creators to partner with, but now solely focuses on helping creators land their dream partnerships. Justin has brought in over $5 million in sponsorships, and he's on a mission to help creators land 1 million sponsorships by 2032. He has a book coming out called Sponsor Magnet, January 21st, and a new conference called Sponsor Games in March that I'm super excited for. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Let's go. Excited to be here, y'all. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you too. So before we dig into the growth of the newsletter, sponsorships, all the good stuff, I wanted to ask you, like, in the beginning, you were working with April. She had a successful YouTube channel. You guys were doing good things. You had this agency that was humming along. Like, what made you start a newsletter and YouTube channel in the first place?
Well, I can share a story, a horror story, actually, because we started a newsletter early on, April and I actually. So we actually tried to launch a paid membership years ago. This was in 2013. So way back in the day before like monetization was really popular, a company actually approached us. So the story goes is that we would do these videos on YouTube where it was like relationship advice. So we would talk about our own relationship, our views on that and all that. And these videos popped, man. They were getting, hundreds of thousands of views every video. This is like in our heyday. And this company approached us and was like, hey, like we should make a paid membership all around like helping people improve their relationships and like being able to like get on calls and like help people through problems and stuff. And we loved the idea. We thought it was awesome. We loved, being able to, we got so many DMs and emails from people who have said that the advice that we gave them helped their relationship and all that. And so as part of this process of launching the paid membership, the company advised us to start a newsletter. They were like, okay, let's put up a lead magnet. And I think we created like an exclusive video, which was like, at the time, it was like a house tour or like an apartment tour, because we'd never done that. We'd never shown that. And people were like, oh, we want to know where you live. Because we were like vloggers, right? And
Creator Wizard Cribs.
Yeah. Creator Wizard Crib style. Like, you got to stay here, but you got to get the heck out or whatever. But so this was crazy. And at the time we didn't realize it was crazy, but in a 2-week span, we got 30,000 people to sign up for our email list in 2 weeks. And we were just like, oh, is that good? Awesome. Like we were just so ignorant. We had no idea. Right. And so I'll spare you the gory details, but the paid membership ultimately didn't work. Our community turned on us for trying to launch something paid. It was awful, actually. It was that's a whole nother story. But what happened was that we stopped sending emails to that newsletter because we stopped the community. The membership, it didn't work. And so about 7 years later, we decided, we're like, wow, we're sitting on this email list of like 30,000 people. I feel like we should maybe start sending stuff to this again, like probably, right? And so we sent a re-engagement campaign to say, hey, you haven't heard from us in 7 years. Do you still want to hear from us? And of the 30,000 people that we sent that to, only 1,000 opted back in. Ouch. And that was like a dagger to the heart. And it just made me think, wow, what could have happened had we nurtured all these people over the last 6 or 7 years. What could that have turned into? And so when I decided to ultimately launch Creator Wizard, I knew that I was never going to make that same mistake again. And so I made a really concerted effort to nurture it from the beginning.
That's crazy. I mean, I know you started this newsletter in like the middle of 2020 and now it has 35,000. So in 2 weeks, you got almost the same amount.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. That's definitely a good lesson.
Yeah. It also made me realize people like my wife way more than me. That's another lesson.
That's crazy. So with this newsletter, when you started it, it was kind of humming along. You were doing some, what I call the unscalable things in the deep dive I wrote, like one-on-one DMs, like every time someone followed you on social. That was pretty interesting. Did that work really well, or was that just like you trying stuff?
The one-on-ones worked super well, like the DMing people, because I did it not only on, it was Twitter back then, but on X, that worked really well, but also Instagram and TikTok. I did it everywhere. Anytime anyone followed me anywhere, I would DM them. Well, first I had a criteria. So I would look at their profile to see, does it say like YouTuber in their bio or creator, or I look at their content and it seems like they're like an aspiring creator. And I would say maybe about 50% of the people that followed me fit that criteria. And so every day I would spend, 30 minutes, an hour, basically like just going through and DMing people. And the success rate was super high of people opting into the newsletter. And so in the early days, that was a really effective tactic.
Do you still talk to any of those people that you DM'd? Yeah.
I mean, the other thing about that is that it opens up conversations when it's clear. Because the other thing too is I was personalizing the messages. I had like a template, of course, but like I would insert the person's name. This would be really funny, is that a lot of times people wouldn't have their first name in their bio. And so I would click through to their YouTube channel and I would just like scrub through like 15 seconds of it. And they'd be like, hey, it's, Jonathan or whatever. Hey, it's Christy or whatever. And I would like get their name from watching a little bit of their content. And I would say that in the message and people would be like, oh, wow, how did you know my name? I like don't have it on my profile anywhere. And so people, I think, would be genuinely surprised that I like took the effort to just like find out what their name was.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, it's like extra effort, of course, but it like, led to kind of some cool conversations.
Yeah. It's like that little extra piece that makes you stand out.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, people don't have the time to necessarily do all of the unscalable things. So what would you, like looking back, what do you think had the most impact of the methods you tried?
I really do think that one-on-one outreach was super effective. Actually, some people screenshotted it and talked about it actually on X, which was interesting, which led to a little bit of like conversation around that tactic. I can't even remember who I think I got that idea from someone doing it to me, candidly, like maybe early on. And I was like, oh, this is a good idea. I should do this. So if I had to look back on, I did this thread a long time ago where it was like, here's how I got into 3,000, subscribers on my newsletter, which felt like a lot at the time. And this was one of the tactics that most people commented on. It was like, oh, wow, this is a good idea. I'm going to try this. And so like, I honestly can't even remember the other 9, but that one is the one that I remember because it led to a lot of great conversations.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. So I remember when doing the research, like in the early days, you were talking not just about sponsorships, you were talking about finance, all kinds of like how to do better content, how to grow an email list, all kinds of creator focused business topics.
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, you eventually like honed in on the sponsorship thing. So I'm curious, what's the story behind that? Like, how did you start with the focusing on sponsorships?
So the tagline for my YouTube channel, actually, when I first started, was the business of being a creator. That was like, because I love talking about that stuff, all the different aspects, affiliate marketing and, digital products and all that. And sponsorships, of course, because like I had done that a lot. But basically everything was just, hold on, I got a sound effect. It was this. Everything was, it was like, okay. You probably didn't know sound effects were coming, did you?
I did.
Or maybe you did know. Maybe you did know.
I was ready.
But everything was just kind of blasé. There was I would try to analyze, which ones are performing better, but everything just kind of was, not doing very well. And so, however, I absolutely did notice that I had the most engagement, the most comments on videos about sponsorships. And in fact, one of my followers DM'd me a bit into the journey, basically, and basically said like, why are you talking about anything other than sponsorships? Like this seems like your wheelhouse. Like, why are you should just stop talking about everything else. And I was like, that's a great idea. And so I just kind of made a hard pivot, and I was like, okay, sponsorships. This is the thing. This is all I'm going to do. And so I started making, some only posting videos about sponsorships, and those started to do better, like not like stratospherically better, but like better for sure, like than the baseline. And so I just decided it was a kind of a gut thing. It wasn't like it was data backed per se. It wasn't like, oh, this is clearly better. It was more just like, not only do I like talking about it more, but almost like now that I know this is the only thing that I'm going to focus on, it was so much clearer. Like, wow, I could think about 100 videos just about this topic versus like, the best hits of like all these other various things. And so I decided to hire a content strategist. And my charge to him, his name is Alex. He's a great guy. I was his first client. He had never worked with anyone, but it was just like a Twitter acquaintance. And I said, hey, I want to be known as the sponsorship guy on Twitter, on the internet. Help me do that. And so we basically devised a playbook where I was like, okay, I'm going to be posting 10 times a day on Twitter, 3 times a day on Instagram. I'm going to be doing YouTube videos. I'm going to be doing the newsletter, all this stuff. And so I worked with him for about 2 years. And I think we nailed it, right? Like literally, like anytime anyone on Twitter would say, hey, I'm having an issue with sponsorships, you would open the thread and like 8 people would tag me. Oh, talk to Justin. He's the guy.
Yep.
And so, yeah, dude, it was like a, but again, it required kind of a full court press of content for a long time.
I think it worked.
I definitely say it worked.
Alex deserves a raise. I know
Yeah.
Is this Alex Lowell?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
This is Alex Lowell, and he and Alex from Steel Club has grown his own business pretty significantly on X and his own newsletter and stuff like that too. So yeah, we both kind of grew together.
I think I want to tie this, do a full circle here, because Justin, you and I and Chenell were all part of Jay's lab community. And almost 3 years ago, I was in that lab, like, I don't know what to do with my newsletter. I'm kind of talking about all this stuff. And I had a hot seat with Jay, and you said you watched the video afterwards and you just chimed in on a comment, Dylan, it seems like you should just talk about newsletters. Like, you're writing about newsletters. That's kind of like where your passion seems to be. Like, why don't you just like focus on like being like the newsletter about newsletters? And I was like, that's a good idea. I've kind of been thinking about that, but this is like definitely the validation that I need. So I'm going to do that. And so that's like a full circle moment, because that's what happened to you. You did it. That's what happened to me. And so thank you for doing that. And yeah, it's just, that's the power of it.
Is this where you're going to offer me like equity in your business because I am responsible for your well-being or your livelihood?
Yes.
Is that?
Yes.
I'm
you can
hoping
take on some of my debt.
I don't want any of the I don't want any of the liabilities, just the equity.
Okay.
No, I'm stoked to hear that, man. Honestly, that's I mean, I kind of knew that, but I didn't know quite that was like the inflection point for you. So that feels awesome, man. I'm stoked for you.
It was.
You're the DM guy now.
I'm the DM guy. Yeah. Look at that.
Amazing. Justin, I feel like speaking of relationships, you're just like extremely good at relationships with other creators, other people. I joked in the deep dive I wrote, you and I can both walk into a room. You'll walk out with every single person's number and like potential partnerships with them. I'll meet like one person, maybe get their like DM or something. And you're just so good at this. And I think it's just led to a lot of the growth. And it's all like behind the scenes stuff. Like, people don't know all of the relationships that you've had and all of that back end work that you've done. All they see is like the stuff on the outside. So just kudos for that. But also like, what kind of relationships do you find the most valuable, and or do you just like go after anyone and everyone and just say like, somebody might get some value from what I'm teaching, so let me just talk to every person I meet?
First of all, I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I'll be totally honest. I definitely consider myself like a gregarious person, like outgoing. I feed off the energy of other people. Like, that's just core of my personality. And I understand not everyone's that way. Like, there's more people. My wife's an introvert, like an introverted, an extroverted introvert is what she calls herself. Right. And so I very much enjoy talking to people and learning about them and learning about their business and learning about their problems, and just like, I don't know, it's just like my part, even in everyday life, making small talk with people. So I think that is a default positive trait that helps me endear myself, I think, maybe to other people. I think also part of it is that I just fundamentally don't look at this stuff transactionally. Like one of the coolest parts I think about growing the newsletter has been having the privilege of having a platform where I can shine a spotlight on other people and them and the cool stuff that they're doing. And so even from the beginning, if someone was launching a product or launching a course or launching a community or launching something, I would just like DM them or respond, hey, you want me to like shout you out or like talk about you in the newsletter or like do this stuff too? And it was never like this like secret scheme where like one day I'm going to like come back quid pro quo. Like, remember that time I mentioned you 3 years ago? Now it's time to pay up, like I never thought about it like that. It was always just like the inherent satisfaction I got of like helping someone. And I think that engendered a lot of goodwill for people, in the community to a point where anytime they had a conversation with a friend who was having an issue, it was like a natural thing. Like, oh, you got to like talk to this guy, Justin. He's like focusing on this stuff. He's a good guy. He helped me out one time. And so, yeah, of course, like there was the byproduct of that was like, I think just like really positive word of mouth. And in fact, you could even bear that out in the data of like my customers, actually my people who have joined my course or joined my coaching program, like something like 25 to 30% of those of people who are joining are referrals. From either affiliates, formal affiliates, or just like people like word of mouth saying, oh, I heard about you from XYZ, because I make a point to ask people, how did you hear about me? How did you hear about this program, this type of thing? And it's very often like from other people. And so I like to think that financial success is a byproduct of service and just treating people well. And so this is speaking of full circle, like now that the book is out, I was faced with this very uncomfortable moment where I was working with a book strategist. His name is Casey Proctor. He's a great guy. And he basically said, okay, Justin, now is the time. You have, planted 1 million great seeds with people over the last, 4 years. Now is the time to go and ask all of these people, hey, will you give me a shout out? Will you like talk, share about the book, much like I did to y'all, right? I came and I said, hey, y'all, like would love to like come on the pod or newsletter shout out, whatever. And it was super uncomfortable actually for me to like do this. But of the basically 100 people that I reached out to, everyone but 3 people said yes. And it was shocking. Wow. Like I was, and the 3 people who said no wasn't like, no, I hate you. It was like, oh, I've pivoted the business. I'm not, talking to creators anymore, or whatever. There was one person who was very icy. That was very uncomfortable. It was very weird and awkward. But yeah, the vast majority of people, it was just like, oh, no question. Like, please, And so, yeah, it was Casey put it in a new light. He was like, you are actually, if you do not ask people, you are depriving them of being able to do you a solid. And like, you've helped me so much. I feel so awesome that I get to like repay you for this advice you gave me that one time that helped me make more money on a brand deal or whatever. So it was a really fulfilling thing to like reach out and ask people candidly.
That's awesome. Nice. It's got to feel good to know that like all of that hard work that you've put in is like people actually do respect you for it and appreciate it enough to, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like having you on this is a no-brainer. One, wrote a deep dive on you. I think it's awesome. Your story's great. And I think more people should learn about it. So,
well, first of all, thank you. But can I also share that I pestered Chenell? How many times did I pester you to write it? I was like, does this mean that you're finally going to write a deep dive about me? Because I remember one time I saw you writing about someone that had less than 50,000 followers. And I was like, oh, great. This is my ticket. Finally.
So I think the next morning I got a text from Justin. He's like, when's my turn?
Yeah.
So you have to speak this stuff into existence is the point, right?
Yeah. Well, you also have to stop pruning your list so aggressively because you've been at 35,000 for like a year and a half now.
Okay. So can this be the moment in the podcast where we talk about the problems, the challenges that I'm having with the newsletter?
Ooh, let's do it.
Sure.
Because yes, I pruned the list. But over the last several months, I've also had a significant churn issue where I increased the cadence of the newsletter from basically 1 to 2 to 3 to now 4 times a week. And now it's a double-edged sword because sales have definitely increased for the course because people are just both the course and the coaching program because people are just seeing the offers more. I mean, it's a real thing. Like people are just, they're seeing the messaging and all that. But that also means that with every email, people are subscribing more and unsubscribing more. And it's not just a linear unsubscription. It's more aggressive than linear because there's just this general sense that like this dude is sending a lot of emails. And so I have a problem, I think generally. So I'm basically filling the bucket, but I have a big hole in the bottom of the bucket. And so I've been flat in terms of the growth for the last couple months. And so can we workshop this? Like what would your guys' suggestions be to like fix this issue?
Dylan, go for it.
Oh, well, a few questions. So are you giving people the option to limit the amount they hear from you?
No.
That was my first question.
Yeah.
No.
So that's like the first thing I would be like, okay, if you don't want to lose subscribers because they like, 2 out of your 4 emails, they don't have the option to only get 2 emails a week versus 4, because that can be overwhelming to people who already are signed up to a lot of things. So what I like to see as an option from somebody who's sending more frequent emails is like, hey, I actually only want the Monday motivation or the Friday finds or whatever version, you have of those newsletters. Or you can even give them, like, if you're doing a launch, you can give them the option to opt out of a launch sequence, which
I do that. I definitely do that.
Okay. That's amazing. Okay. So that's good. That's good. But yeah, in terms of like the amount they hear from you, that could be something you could look at reducing.
How do I,
sorry, not reducing the amount they hear from you, but making sure that they have the option to.
How do I still want to be able to launch stuff to those people who opt out of the normal cadence of newsletter? Because, every couple months, basically, I do a quarterly promotion or some, new challenge or something. So do I also exclude those people from that? Or like, how do you think?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. So what I think is my guess is you probably have specific types of emails you're sending on these days of the week, right? Mm-hmm. So you give people the option to receive those, or some of them or none of them or whatever it might be, or just one of them. And then when you do a launch or a promotion, those people still get those launch and promotion emails. They're just unsubscribing from the other 3 or 4 recurring weekly editions. And then when a launch comes up, you're giving them the option to opt out of the launch. So again, they're not unsubscribing. Their preferences stay the same. They're only getting that 1 or 2 emails a week from you that they want, and everyone's happy. And you're losing fewer subscribers. And then when the offer comes in for your launch that they actually really want, they're still on your list and they still will potentially buy from you.
I think I'm going to do this. I've been resisting this for a long time, but I'm talking to the experts right now, so I probably should do this.
Well, 4 emails is kind of a lot, especially if you sign up and you were only hoping to get sponsorship opportunities. So I don't know.
Yeah. Is that it? Just any other advice?
Well, are you doing like paid ads or anything to grow the list? I know you did it before, but
yeah. So I did this pretty heavily. I was spending about $5,000 a month, actually, a mix of paid Meta, like Facebook and Instagram ads, as well as Sparkloop, paid acquisition for a while there, and that was going gangbusters. That did really pretty well, and I was able to, I analyzed kind of the cohort engagement between organic subs and ones that I was acquiring from paid ads, and like the engagement was only about 5 to 7% less with paid ads, which was pretty sweet. And so I definitely want to like explore going back into that. I basically I stopped paid acquisition for the newsletter because I reallocated all of those funds over to a paid evergreen webinar strategy that I was running for about a year to 18 months. And so spent about $100K on cold traffic, basically, to webinar registrants. And so that was basically reallocated the budget to that. So definitely kind of reassessing, the strategy. One thing that I'd be curious of y'all's perspective is that I've developed this audit tool that is sick. Like so it's basically if you can check it out. Anyone listening or watching wanted to try it out, you can go to sponsormagnet.com/audit and enter in your YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok handle, or all of the above. And it will generate a personalized audit for how you can attract more sponsors with your social media. And basically it's a custom tool that I developed with one of my friends who's a developer, and it's so sick. Basically, we take a screenshot of your social platforms and like your videos and things like that, and we analyze how you can improve, whether it's your banner in your YouTube cover art, or your bio, or the thumbnails on your YouTube channel, or the way in which you talk about yourself in your Instagram bio, whatever. And it'll tell you, hey, like, good job on this, but hey, you're making a mistake here. And I have a feeling like this tool could be pretty powerful for lead gen. and even running maybe
we get a
paid ads
4.
to it. Ooh, you got a 4
out of 5?
Yeah.
All right.
4 out of 10.
out of 10. Out of 10.
That's great.
What are some of the like feedback that it gave you?
Yeah, channel banner image. It
Mhm.
says add like new videos every whatever day.
Tells you
we
about
have
like
channel links.
cadence.
About section is bad, which is fair. And then I entered my email to get the rest.
Okay.
And now I got to check out the email.
So this is a like a lead gen tool. Was that the whole motivation behind it?
Yeah, 100%. Like lead gen was, but I feel like having like running paid ads to it, even for like kind of an introductory creator, an aspiring creator who is like, oh, like I want to work with brands, this type of thing, might be pretty powerful. So I don't know. It's just a gut feeling though.
Have you done those ads yet or no?
Not yet. No.
I kind of do well.
You think so?
I think you've been shouted out on the podcast before also about talking about lead magnets and how you tried lead magnets a lot in the beginning of the newsletter days. And you're kind of like, you kind of set them aside and focused on like referral and locked content and that sort of thing. But now it looks like you're dabbling with lead magnets. This is definitely a different type of lead magnet for sure. So I guess your mind hasn't necessarily changed on it. You're just approaching it from a different angle.
So I was on Nathan Barry's podcast recently, and we did the whole episode was basically about how should my business change now that I have a book. And it was a really awesome conversation. And one of the insights that we basically had from the conversation was that we talked about what are the goals that I want now that I have the book, like what are the goals that I want in the business? And one of the biggest things that I told him was like, I want to make the coaching program grow from, let's say 30% of revenue, which is what it currently is, to 80 or 90% in a year or two. That's a big goal that I have, is like, having the signature offer basically be our coaching program. And one piece of advice that he gave specifically came back to this audit tool was like, I would go hard on the audit tool as like one of the major calls to action anywhere. And depending on people's scores, you provide them, hey, you got this score, you should read the book. This is great for you. Hey, or if you get above, 90% or whatever, you're perfect for the coaching program. So using the audit tool as a way to kind of, Harry Potter sorting hat idea of like push people to like different offers based on the score. And so part of me feels like I should double down on making the tool really, really good. It's great now. It's good now. I want to make it great. And then develop kind of a sophisticated segmentation logic on the back end to like show people different offers based on their score.
I think that's super smart. It reminds me of Brian Harris with Growth Tools. And he's put together 5, 6, maybe more of these like software lead magnets essentially. And he's been able to grow his list through those. People share them all the time because they're free. So this is what that reminds me of. I think it's a really good option. I think Nathan's right on point with that. Like sort people into different buckets based on how they're scoring. I mean, it's the ultimate personalization. And you have their YouTube channel link, their Instagram channel. Like you can do direct outreach if they're quality enough. So
yeah.
One other thing that I've toyed with is that there's these lead gen companies out there. For example, like there's one called influencers.club, for example, and they will have some like pretty sophisticated tooling to filter certain types of creators or influencers. They usually work with creator economy companies to do cold lead gen, so like cold email marketing. And I talked to them, I'm still kind of considering whether trying this, but like I said, hey, can you get me a list of like creators who you look at their profile and they've done at least one paid partnership in the last 6 months? They look at you see that they have like a hashtag ad or hashtag sponsored or something in their Instagram post. That's probably like a good person to like, for me to reach out to and be like, either, hey, join the newsletter, or, oh, hey, buy my book, or, hey, sign up for this free, webinar or whatever. That probably feels like a good thing, but I don't know. Cold email outreach is walk me through this, because everything to date has been inbound for my business over the last 3 or 4 years, other than the paid cold ads that I tried. But like everything else has been like, hey, like I'm not saying like, hey, buy my course, or like, hey, buy my course. It's like everyone is kind of like coming to me and saying like, hey, I want to sign up for this. And so somehow cold email feels different. It feels a little ickier. I don't know. Am I wrong in that?
I don't love doing cold email either for that reason, but I'm sure there's a way to make it warmer so it's not super cold.
Yeah.
Maybe you even start looking at, all right, so you've worked with this one person, see who they're connected to. Maybe, I don't know, that's still not super warm, but.
Why do you feel the need to do cold outreach?
Okay, because if I look at the customers that I've, have joined my course, joined my coaching, this type of stuff, it is the people who are actively having issues with sponsorships. They're like, I'm in a negotiation right now. I need help, pricing, negotiations, proposals. Like we shoot those fish in a barrel all day long. Like we're great servicing those clients. But when I go to conferences or when I talk with most creators, most business owners, the vast majority of people are like, sponsorships? I don't want to do sponsorships. Like I want to sell my own stuff, or I want to do, this type of thing. And I have a 3-minute conversation with someone like that. And I say, hey, you know what? I actually think you should be looking at it a little bit differently. And then they go, oh, wow, this is interesting. Maybe I should be considering sponsorships. And holy cow, that I get goosebumps even thinking about it. I feel like that is the vast majority of creators and entrepreneurs. They think that sponsorships are like this icky process. I don't want to give up creative control. Like I just want to do this over here. I want to make AdSense on my YouTube videos and not talk to anyone, or I want to sell my own courses or products or whatever. And so I actually think that the vast majority, there's like a much larger TAM, right? A total addressable market of people who I can serve and impact, who just aren't doing sponsorships right now. And candidly, that's why I wrote the book. And so I just feel like there's a lot of people I could help who just, it's not even on their radar.
That's interesting. I feel like there are other things you could probably do. Maybe even like if someone buys the book, give them a free coupon to give it away to someone else, like a new friend. Because maybe they're thinking, all right, I'm learning about sponsorships, but my other friend over here thinks they hate sponsorships. So maybe I should offer them a free copy of the book. I don't know.
You want to, sorry, I'm like totally taking control of your podcast. But okay. I feel like this is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Can I share my screen? We could, if those of you guys who are just listening, if you're just listening to the podcast, come over to YouTube. Okay. Cause I'm about to show something cool. Okay. So this is my book's site, and I have this thing up at the top. I have this banner called the 10K copies challenge. And I've basically, this is partly a list growth hope as well. But basically, I have these milestones that everyone in the community will unlock once I sell that number of copies of the book. So for example, like we're at about 650 copies pre-sold right now. And once everyone in the, once I unlock 1,000 copies sold, I'm going to send this secret video to everyone that's called How I Responded to a Brand That Rejected My Pitch. And then there's like different things. I'm going to be doing some live, workshops at 3,000, 5,000, 8,000, et cetera. And so far it's been working actually pretty well. Some people have actually told me in the email when they respond to the email, when they buy the book, they're like, I just had to see that number tick up. And I was like, sweet, this is great. And so it's just like, I don't know, you guys could probably tell like my approach to newsletters and growth and all that it's been this very kind of like test and learn type thing. And so like, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm really trying to get to 10K, books sold by April 21st, basically. So yeah, I don't know. It's, I don't know. I have fun doing these like little tests.
You've done a lot of tests for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen you change different growth channels. Your product suite has changed like significantly, I'd say. Yeah. And it's honestly, it's inspiring because I feel like a lot of creators, they do one thing, it's working okay. And they're like, I'm just going to stay with this because it's still working. But you are like, no, we're going to change this up. We're going to completely change how we're doing things. And it seems to do well most of the time.
To clarify, I have tried a lot of different tactics to grow the list and things like that, but I'm still only offering the same 1 or 2 products. I definitely have taken the kind of Stripmall versus Skyscraper approach that Nathan Barry has talked about to heart, very much trying to build the Skyscraper, because it is absolutely hard to build mind share over 10 or 15 products that you've launched. And so most of the tests I've done have just been more like list growth tactics versus let me launch a bunch of different products.
Right. Well, but I mean, even with Brand Deal Wizard, you
Yeah.
were doing it as a cohort. Now it's
True.
evergreen.
Yeah.
Because you need a little bit more time on your hands,
Yeah.
I'm sure, to
Yeah.
launch your book.
Yeah.
and, and have a conference. Now you have those two things as well. So I feel like you are expanding it. Yes, the vertical and the topic is all the same, but it's pretty inspiring to see that. I mean, you even changed the topic. You could have still been talking about the business of creators if you were too scared to change it over to just sponsorships. And some people are too scared to niche down like that. So I think it's pretty cool to see. So yeah, I just wanted to call that out.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that.
I think this is a great time, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chenell, but I think this is a great opportunity to pick Justin's brain about newsletter sponsorships for people listening. Like
definitely
things that we should all be doing that we're not, that you see, that kind of thing. If you're ready to take on a few of those types of questions, Justin.
Heck yeah, let's go rapid fire. Hit me.
And before people tune out and they're like, I don't want to do sponsorships, or I already have this locked in. I heard Justin told Nathan Barry on an old podcast or in some video that when you had a 3,000 person email list, you sold a $2,000 sponsorship deal. And I was like, what? At the time when I had 3,000 people on my email list, I think I was selling spots for like $150. So there's a big difference in the way that most creators like me do things and the way that Justin teaches. So don't zone out here. Listen to his advice because it's good stuff.
That was a juicy hook there. I really like that one, Chenell. Okay, so can we talk about why that? Can we talk about why that is actually?
Yeah.
Let's
do it.
So a huge part of being able to sell newsletter sponsorships well is being able to tell the story about why your audience is different than the other 10 other newsletters that they're evaluating. I think a lot of people get really fixated on the CPMs and the CPOs and like, how many, coming up with some formula of, what the open rate, the click rate, and like all these, calculators that they can find on the internet. When in reality, a big part of, making more money with newsletter sponsorships is just being able to tell the sponsor that like, hey, the people who are on my newsletter are different than, if you compare my newsletter at 3,000 subscribers to this other person who has an identical, number to me, my audience is different. And so the story that I told in those early days, and I still tell, is that the types of creators that are on my newsletter are business minded. They are trying to make money and grow their business. They are not screwing around on TikTok. They're not just making YouTube videos for fun as a hobby. They are investing money in growing this as a business. And that is a very different type of persona of type of customer that you want to reach. I use the same logic to get my course sponsored. I get the same logic to get my podcast, my social media sponsored. I use the same logic to get my event sponsor games sponsored. It's the same logic. It's like you have to tell the story of the attendee, of the subscriber, of the follower. You have to tell the story. And I think that this is the way in which you can detach your rates from your number of subscribers.
Super smart. I could see exactly why that works. Even just that little reframe will make a big difference. You're right.
It also helps you clarify, like, okay, maybe I don't know the answer to that. I actually don't know what makes my subscribers different. And you know what you need to do? You need to ask them. You need to do some surveys, learn more, not just about the demographics, right? Of like, maybe you do have some high level stats of your subscribers with your newsletter platform or whatever. But like, no, I actually, you know what I care about? I care about the psychographics. I care about what types of jobs they have. Are they married? Do they have kids? What types of brands and products and services are they using and loving right now? You can ask them. What's keeping them up at night? What problems are they having? You may do a survey of your newsletter audience and discover that, wow, I actually, maybe let's say you have a bunch of SMBs. Those are the types of people that are on your newsletter. And you do a survey and you realize, wow, I didn't realize that 40% of respondents of this survey are having issues with bookkeeping, or they're having issues with HR, or they're having issues with something, right? That's not about the topic of your newsletter. And so you never would have thought to like talk about that or collaborate with a partner or a software tool like that. But now that I know that 40% of the people in my audience, these SMBs, are having bookkeeping issues, I better go out there and pitch a bookkeeping tool or bookkeeping software and figure out a creative way to integrate that into into my content, to my newsletter. And the beautiful part about that is that you're no longer worried, like, oh, are my subscribers going to be into this? No, you just found out 40% of them are having an issue with this. So it's probably going to increase conversions as well for this opportunity. And so it's a hit. So also think about how game changing of a pitch that is now. It's no longer, hey, I love your brand. Would you love to sponsor my newsletter? It's, hey, I have a huge chunk of my audience who say that they're actively having an issue with this, the issue that your product solves. I would love to expose my full audience to your tool.
I love this. I heard you say something like this before. And so I actually took some of this advice and I went and I surveyed my audience and I said, what tools are you guys actively using? And by far and away, number one was Notion. So I need to get on my game and reach out to Notion and get that sponsored. But that was the first step I took because I was like, Justin is smart. He's thinking about different things like this. So I did it a little bit different, but.
Okay. So let's talk about Notion. Can we talk about Notion for a second here?
Sure.
Did you see over the last couple days that they did a full court press with this new feature called Notion Faces?
I did. I saw it yesterday.
Okay. So and I saw people actually, like a bunch of people making posts about this that did not work at Notion. So I think that these were like, they enlisted an army of either affiliates or people to like spread the word, make posts on LinkedIn about this. And so, one of the things that you could have done was infer that, hey, Notion's, they're working on stuff all the time. They've got this, potentially, I don't know, I'm going to infer that, a couple months ago, 6 months ago, AI, that was the big thing that they were sponsoring people to talk about on podcasts, on newsletters. Hey, Notion has AI now, XYZ. And so were you to reach out and pitch Notion for a deal, maybe you would have focused still on that AI thing, but they would have come back and said to you, hey, yes, people know about AI now, but guess what? Actually, we've got this new thing coming in Q1 called Notion Faces. Would you be able to help spread the word about that? So you allow them, when you allow them the opening, basically, to say, hey, love the initiative here, Chenell. Thanks for this data that people are really interested in Notion. We actually have this other thing we'd love you to focus on. Let's talk about a partnership.
And so with that, if I were to do that, what are some other unique things that you could quote unquote sell? Like if I just am a newsletter creator, I have a newsletter, maybe I have a small social media, like, are there any creative inclusions you could pitch them on? Like instead of just being like, here's 3 spots in my newsletter.
So anyone listening, this is your number one opportunity and your number one directive from me this year is you have to have at least one other channel, whether it's a social media platform, whether it's a private community, whether it's whatever it is, whether it's an event, an in-person event, whatever, you have to have something else to pitch these brands other than more, other than quantity. This is the biggest mistake I think that newsletter operators make when they're trying to pitch sponsorship packages. Maybe you do have packages. Maybe you're saying, hey, package 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the only variance is quantity. You're saying, hey, package 1 is 5 newsletter blasts and package 2 is 10 newsletter blasts. And maybe the only reason that a brand has an incentive to pick a higher package is a price concession. So they say, hey, you get 10% off, 15% off if you pick the higher package, the longer package, whatever. That's not that compelling for most brands. They're not going to really care much about that. And so the biggest change that you need to make here is tying the packages to the brand's goals. We're going to go down a rabbit hole for a second here, but I think it's important for everyone to hear. Most newsletter operators think that the only thing that brands and companies care about is conversions, is clicks, it's opens, it's the attributable and measurable things. That is only one type of a goal that a brand often has when they want to sponsor you. I call it my ARC framework, ARC. So A stands for awareness. I have done deals with creator economy companies. When I asked them, what does success look like to you for this partnership? They said, you know what? When a creator hears the word membership, we want them to think of our brand, of the name of our brand. That was the goal. It wasn't new trial signups for our tool. That was not what they said. They said, they want us to associate the word membership with our brand. And so that is an awareness focused campaign. Okay. It's very important to understand. R in the ARC framework is repurposing. So the reason, and when I say, hey, what does success look like to you? They say, hey, we want to actually take the content that you generate, maybe this newsletter integration, and we want to repurpose this on our blog because we don't have a blog. Our blog sucks or we need social media content. We suck at that. we want to repurpose this. Maybe you have an Instagram or something as a newsletter operator. The final C is conversion. Yeah, that's that one that most people think about, right? And so the reason it's so critical that you understand as a newsletter operator what the brand's objectives are is that your package strategy and your pricing has to change when you put these proposals together. So package 1 is going to be tied to goal 1. They probably told you a lot of different things. Oh yeah, awareness and sales, and we need a content strategy, like all this stuff. And so package 1 is going to be the 5 newsletter blasts. Perfect. That's going to be the let's say conversion focus goal. Perfect. That's tied to that. But package 2, there's no newsletter blast in that. Package 2 is I'm going to make 5 blog posts for you that you go on your blog. I don't even put these in my newsletter. Package 3 is the awareness focused one. This is where I'm going to co-host a webinar with your brand. This is the awareness play where I'm going to, I've got a podcast maybe, and maybe I'm also going to put, the Growth in Reverse podcast powered by brand on the cover art of the podcast. That's an awareness play, right? And so package 4, guess what? That's the one that includes everything. And that's the only way that they can accomplish all their objectives is if they pick the highest package.
So you include all 3 different types of them in the pack or in the pitch.
100%. Yeah. Because almost all brands will say there's a lot of different things they want to accomplish with the partnership. And for any newsletter operator listening to this and seeing like, okay, Justin, yeah, this is all good and well. But all the newsletters all the, brands that I'm talking to, all they care about is how much are you going to charge me? Cost per open, cost per click. Like they're all this stuff. Like it sounds great in theory, but no brands go for this type of thing. Have you gotten on a phone call with them? A lot of people are terrified of that. Have you had a conversation with them? Is all you have a place on your website where they can click? Oh yeah, click here, book these dates, newsletter insertions right here to sponsor it. Is that all you got? Because I guarantee you that if they can put a face to the name, if you can ask questions about what it is that they're trying to accomplish, I guarantee you that this is going to lead to a larger conversation. They're going to be able to put a face to the name. Wow, Justin's not just another newsletter operator here. Even if you're charging 2 or 3 times as much as this other person over here, they may just choose to go with you because it seems like it's going to go better. So, this person that you're negotiating with, it may be their butt on the line. Their boss told them, hey, you better hit this KPI this quarter. You better do this thing. And they may just spend a little bit more money just because it feels like an insurance that they're actually going to be able to do what their boss or their client has requested.
You just made so many introverts cringe right now.
Okay, you're right. And let me wrap you in a weighted blanket right now, introverts. Okay, because I know you love those weighted blankets, guys. On a phone call, I know you're probably in your mind you're thinking it's going to be like 4 people in suits on a Zoom call, and they're all grilling you. So here's a way to avoid that scenario. Before these calls, do research. Make a list of 10 questions that you actually ask them. You say, hey, I want to learn more about your market. I want to learn more about your product roadmap. What's going on in your product roadmap? What are you excited about? Have you ever worked with newsletter operators before? If you haven't, or if you have, what went well? What didn't go so well? What are some of your concerns about potentially collaborating here? Are there new entrants in the market, competitors that are, other supply chain issues? Just ask questions, right? Be interested in what's going on in their world. The other thing is that if you don't know the answer to something that they ask, say so. Say, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. No one's ever asked me that. I will get back to you. It's totally okay to say that. In fact, I think that engenders more confidence in people if you're truthful about that type of thing. And so these phone calls don't need to be a gauntlet, an interview. It can be a conversation. The visual that I like to give is like a lot of people think that negotiating with a brand or interacting with a brand, it's like you're on opposite sides of a table and it's contentious. It's like, oh, like you need this from me and I need this from you. Imagine you scoot your little swivel office chair around the side of the table. You're both sitting on the same side and you're looking at a whiteboard together. You're saying, hey, this is the objective. We're both trying to go from here to here. How can we do this thing together?
Make it sound so easy. I like it.
I think
it is. If you buy The book sponsor magnet.
If you buy the book.
I feel like you've called out like just basically separating yourself from other people by putting in just some extra effort. I know that's simplifying what you're saying a lot, and I don't mean to dumb it down that much, but it's like if you just actually put in a little bit more time and effort into preparation, into your pitches, into what you can offer these people and research, it's just going to go that much more further ahead for you.
Well, you know what? The bar is low.
Yeah,
the bar is very, very low. The bar's in the bar's in the basement. Actually, because most newsletter operators, most creators, they don't want to do this. They want to have the Stripe checkout. They want to have the calendar where you can click here and book. They want to have the pricing page. It seems easy. It seems seamless. But if I told you that you could go from making $100 per insertion to $1,000 per insertion by simply being able to have a conversation with the brand, would you do it? I think a lot of people might. And that seems insane. I mean, I've seen this type of transformation when people start employing some of these strategies.
If someone handed me $900 to get on a phone call, I think I would drop my introvertness and go do it. So yes.
That's the warm blanket. That's the warm blanket.
Amazing. Justin, this has been awesome. Really appreciate you coming on here and chatting with us about sponsorships and newsletters. And I'm excited to come to the Sponsor Games event. As an introvert, it's a little scary that you're going to be asking people to do live pitches, but I'm excited. I'm ready.
I'm so thankful. And I just want to say, like, you were one of the first people who bought tickets, and that has meant the absolute world to me. Launching an event is super scary. Like I have committed a huge amount of my own personal money to like make this event happen simply because I want it to exist in the universe. I mean, sponsorships are like the number one revenue stream for like a lot of newsletter operators, a lot of creators. And there's no event that focuses on this. And so even as terrifying as it is to like plop down 20K on a venue and, 5 figures on catering and all this stuff too. I think it's going to be the start of like something really special. I think especially doing these things, practicing in real time, in person, with other creators, getting real time coaching. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I appreciate. I'm so stoked that you're coming.
I'm excited. If anybody else wants to join us there, you can go to sponsorgames.com, go get the book at sponsormagnet.com, or just simply sign up for the free newsletter at creatorwizard.com. Many websites.
Hold on a second. If you, by the way, I'm going to give you, if any of you listen to this and actually sign up, tell me it was Chenell and Dylan that referred you, because I totally am. I have an affiliate program for tickets, 30% commission.
Ooh.
So I will give you that meaty commission if actually anyone like signs up from this. All right, let's go.
Amazing. Different way to get your podcast episode sponsored. I like it.
Heck yeah.
That's right.
Amazing. Thank you, Justin. This was great.
Thanks again, guys.
It's been awesome.